The image begins in the air. A helicopter, a body, a sudden drop. Oliver Tree suspended between spectacle and disaster, framed like a man who is about to lose control. For a second, the scene looks tense enough to make you hold your breath. But that is exactly the trick. This is not a death story. It is not a memorial. Oliver Tree is alive. The fall is part of the image, part of the performance, part of the strange visual language he has been building for years. Because with Oliver Tree, the question is rarely, did he fall? The question is, why does he keep making the fall look like the point? Most artists try to rise. Oliver Tree keeps returning to the opposite motion. Downward, sideways, into the dirt, into the wall, into the joke, into the moment where the body looks awkward, the outfit looks wrong, the face looks defeated, and the whole scene seems designed to ask, what if embarrassment was not something to hide from, but something to build an identity around? In normal celebrity culture, failure is usually edited out. The bad photos disappear. The awkward moments get buried. The comeback is polished until it looks inspirational. Stars are allowed to struggle, but only if the story eventually becomes beautiful, expensive, and controlled. Oliver Tree does something different. He puts failure directly in the frame. The haircut is not fixed. It is exaggerated. The clothes are not tailored. They are oversized until they become cartoon armor. The scooter is not a sleek symbol of freedom. It becomes a machine for crashing, limping, and looking ridiculous. The music videos do not always make him look powerful. Often, they make him look rejected, stranded, bruised by life, or trapped inside some humiliating version of himself. And somehow, that became the signature. Oliver Tree Nickel, from Santa Cruz, California, did not arrive looking like a traditional pop star. By the time a wider audience began to recognize him, the image was already impossible to ignore. The bowl cut, the red sunglasses, the giant pants, the windbreaker, the blank stare of someone who looked like he had either escaped from a children's television show or been rejected by one. But the joke was never just the outfit. The outfit worked because it looked like a refusal to hide the parts of fame that are usually considered ugly. The desperation, the need for attention, the humiliation of trying hard, the strange loneliness of wanting to be understood and knowing people might only laugh. That tension is everywhere in Oliver Tree's work. In Alien Boy, he turns not fitting in into a title, a character, and a worldview. The word alien is not subtle. It says the quiet part out loud. He is not presenting himself as the person who belongs in the room. He is presenting himself as the person who crashed through the wrong door and stayed there until everyone had to look. In Hurt, the title itself becomes a blunt, emotional signal. The song carries the feeling of giving everything and still feeling like it was not enough. Around it, the visuals lean into impact, damage, and physical risk. Oliver Tree's connection to scooter culture is not just a fun detail in his biography. It became one of the clearest symbols of his whole artistic language. Movement that promises freedom but can end in a crash at any second. That is why the scooter matters. A scooter is already a funny object in pop culture. It is not a motorcycle. It is not a sports car. It does not automatically make someone look dangerous or glamorous. In Oliver Tree's hands, that is exactly the point. He takes something childish, awkward, and easy to mock, then turns it into a recurring emblem of obsession, pain, and persistence. He has talked publicly about scooter injuries. He built visuals around scooters. He even became associated with the largest kick scooter record. On paper, that sounds like a stunt. But inside the Oliver Tree image, it also feels like a perfect metaphor. Make the thing too big, try to ride it anyway, and let the audience watch the gap between ambition and embarrassment. That gap is where his art lives. A normal celebrity might want the audience to see control. Oliver Tree often lets the audience see the failure of control. He stumbles into the frame. He crashes the frame. He makes the frame uncomfortable. He turns his body into a punchline before anyone else can. But the strange thing is, the more ridiculous the image becomes, the more human it can feel. Because everyone knows what it feels like to try to look normal and fail. Everyone knows the private shame of being too much, not enough, badly timed, badly dressed, misunderstood, rejected, ignored, or laughed at. Oliver Tree takes those feelings and makes them loud. He does not always smooth them into beauty. He inflates them until they become impossible to miss. That is why "ugly is beautiful" is such an important phrase in his career. It is not just an album title. It is almost a thesis statement. The ugly feeling does not have to be removed before the art begins. The ugly feeling can be the material. Failure in his world is not the opposite of the performance. Failure is the performance. You can see it in the fake endings too. Oliver Tree has repeatedly played with the idea of quitting, retiring, disappearing, or bringing something to an end. In another artist's career, that might be treated like a solemn announcement. With him, it becomes another exaggerated defeat, another theatrical collapse, another way to turn the end into content. But this story is not about one single career crossroads. It is about a pattern. Again and again, Oliver Tree returns to the image of the person who cannot quite win in the approved way. The man falling from the sky, the scooter rider eating pavement, the singer with the haircut everyone wants to talk about before the song, the cowboy crying, the alien boy, the lonely figure in a crowd, the artist making himself look ridiculous while singing about things that are not ridiculous at all. Rejection, heartbreak, frustration, alienation, and the exhausting act of continuing. That contrast is the engine. The visuals say, "Look at this idiot." The songs often say, "This hurts." And somewhere between those two messages, Oliver Tree becomes recognizable. He understands something about internet culture that many polished celebrities miss. Online, perfection is not always believable. Sometimes the internet trusts the mess more than the pose. Sometimes a person falling, failing, or looking absurd feels more real than a perfect face in perfect lighting saying all the right things. Oliver Tree's work belongs to that world, a world where memes and music videos and public stunts and emotional songs all collapse into one another. A world where embarrassment spreads faster than elegance. A world where the image that looks wrong can become the image nobody forgets. But it would be too simple to say he is just making fun of himself. The better way to understand it is that he turns failure into a design language. The bad haircut is design. The enormous pants are design. The crashes a design. The awkward dancing, the blank expressions, the uncomfortable comedy, the fake defeats, the intentionally humiliating visuals. All of it creates a system. You know an Oliver Tree image when you see one because it usually looks like something has gone wrong on purpose. And that on purpose matters. A random failure is just a mistake. A repeated failure becomes a motif. A motif becomes a style. A style becomes a world the audience can recognize in seconds. Oliver Tree built that recognition out of things most celebrities are trained to avoid. He made awkwardness memorable. He made rejection musical. He made crashing part of the brand without reducing it to tragedy. He made the body look breakable, the persona look foolish, and the emotion underneath feel more exposed because of it. In Life Goes On, the title itself sounds like resilience with a shrug. Not a grand victory, not a heroic transformation, just the simplest, most stubborn fact. Life continues. That phrase fits Oliver Tree because his version of survival is rarely clean. It is not the motivational poster version of getting back up. It is closer to getting back up in the same ridiculous outfit with the same haircut after everyone saw you fall. That is a different kind of resilience. It does not pretend the fall was graceful. It says the fall happened. Everyone saw it, and somehow the song is still playing. This is why his images of crashing and falling do not need to be read as tragedy. They are staged spectacle, physical comedy, and visual metaphor. They are part of a long artistic pattern where losing balance becomes a way to talk about emotional imbalance, social discomfort, and the strange pressure to perform confidence when you feel anything but confident. In Oliver Tree's world, the fall is not always the end of the story. Sometimes the fall is the only honest place to start. He has moved through different eras: the alien outsider, the exaggerated scooter figure, the crying cowboy, the lonely character surrounded by people. But the emotional architecture stays connected. Each version of Oliver Tree finds a new costume for the same basic conflict. How do you keep going when you feel rejected by the room, the relationship, the crowd, or the culture around you? He rarely answers that question with elegance. He answers it with impact. A crash, a joke, a ridiculous outfit, a chorus that sounds simple enough to become viral, but carries a feeling that is darker than the image first suggests. That combination is why his work can confuse people. Some viewers see only the absurdity and miss the sadness. Others hear the sadness and wonder why it is dressed like a prank. But the collision between those two things is the point. Oliver Tree's art often feels like emotional pain wearing a Halloween costume it refuses to take off. And maybe that is why it connects. Because embarrassment is one of the most common feelings in modern life, but one of the least glamorous. Nobody wants to admit how often they feel foolish. Nobody wants to admit how much rejection shapes them. Nobody wants to admit how tiring it is to keep performing confidence in a world that rewards polish and punishes awkwardness. Oliver Tree admits it sideways. He does not sit the audience down and explain it in a clean confession. He turns it into a fall from the sky. He turns it into a scooter crash. He turns it into a giant pair of pants. He turns it into a cowboy crying in public. He turns it into a song about being hurt, hated, left behind, or alone in a crowd. The spectacle makes you laugh first, then the feeling catches up. That is the real power of his aesthetics of failure. They let him smuggle vulnerable emotions through images that look too silly to be vulnerable. By the time the audience realizes the joke has an ache inside it, the image is already stuck in their head. A helicopter, a fall, a body dropping through open air. In another story, that image might be used to suggest an ending. In Oliver Tree's story, it belongs to a much longer pattern. The artist as falling object, as public embarrassment, as failed stunt, as rejected character, as someone who keeps turning impact into identity. He makes failure look like the point, because failure is the part everyone recognizes. Not the polished speech after it, not the perfect comeback, not the clean version of resilience sold after the pain has been edited down. The actual moment of failure. The ugly second where you are falling, exposed, ridiculous, and completely visible. Oliver Tree takes that second and stretches it into a career-long image. He makes it funny. He makes it uncomfortable. He makes it catchy. He makes it absurd enough to survive the internet and human enough to mean something beyond the joke. That is why the fall keeps coming back. Because in Oliver Tree's world, falling is not proof that the performance has failed. Falling is the performance. And the reason people keep watching is not because he never crashes. It is because he crashes in a way that makes the rest of us feel a little less alone when we do.